This is a list of 20 things Marathon doesn't tell you, but you can use to become a better player and to avoid wasting time. Some of this stuff is buried in the game's menus in the most inexplicable places, and others are just not explained at all. So let's dive into the list and you can see how many you already know. Number 1, if you're struggling with the contracts in the game and you can't quite figure out where you're meant to go for a given objective, you can pull up the map screen by pressing M. Then you can scroll down on the map screen and you can tab through the different menus on the right-hand side, and there you can find your currently active contract. Then, if you hover the objective that you're on, it will give you more detailed information about the location that you need to go to, which is unbelievably useful for finding those pesky contract locations. Number 2, if you're planning to do lockdowns or other events like that, and you need antivirus kits to be able to get into the lockdown field, you might struggle a bit if your teammates don't have those antivirus packs, but you do. The good news is if you pass all your status effect removing consumables to a triage on your team, and then your triage throws heal bots at you, when the triage uses the consumable, it will also apply the status effect to you. So you'll get the antivirus medication, even though it's the triage that is actually taking those meds. Number 3, did you know that there are certain activities in the game that are not contracts that also give you significant amounts of faction upgrade progress? For example, if you activate a TAD, which is like the localized UAV device, that gives you SIAC rep. Exfilling also gives you SIAC rep. Harvesting plants and looting medical cabinets gives you NuCal rep. Looting arms lockers and completing lockdowns gives you Traxxas rep. Looting lockboxes and finding coordinate caches via coordinate data pads gives you MIDA rep. And looting runners, downing runners with precision damage, and finishing runners gives you Arachne rep. Number 4, gear actually degrades in Marathon, and once it's changed hands a certain number of times, it will disappear forever. This is why the following scenario might happen. Let's say you and another team are fighting each other. You go down on one side, and the enemy team loots you, but then they run away. Your team revives you, you get back up, and you go on a quest to take that second team down. Eventually, you find them, you kill them, you take all your loot back, but you notice some of the things that they stole from you are mysteriously gone. There's obviously a chance they just dropped it somewhere, but the other explanation is that the trace, as it is called, on that item went to 0. So keep an eye on the trace of your items in the game's menu just here. It's buried for some reason. Next, if you constantly find yourself running out of shields in fights, it might be because you're playing the fights very slightly wrong. One thing that I don't see a lot of people doing is being fairly hungry to get finishers on downed runners. If you do this, you're going to siphon shields from that downed runner, and those will replenish your shields. And this is actually a stat that you can upgrade as you play through the game, and you increase your faction rep and your faction upgrade trees. And that means that sometimes you'll down a runner, you'll finish them, and you'll basically be back to full as if you hadn't even fought in the first place. Next, have you run into the issue where you're playing, you've got a key card maybe, you open up a door, you go inside, and the loot is dreadful? Or you're doing some last-minute looting, a team is approaching, and you're like, oh, I just need to check 1 or 2 more cases before I leave, because what if they have a gold in them, right? Like, those scenarios can be solved with Thief. Thief has a visor, which lets you scan lockboxes, so before you even use a lockbox key on the case, you can tell what rarity of loot it has inside. So if you scan it and it's just blue, you might be like, well, I'll keep the lockbox key until I find one that has a purple in it instead. However, there are some scenarios where the visor cannot see through the locked door. It works in some cases, but it doesn't in others. So if you try to scan and everything is white, then that is an indicator that it's not showing you the rarities yet. Next, did you know that if you're solo or you're in a Rook run, you get 20% increased faction rep from doing all the stuff that I mentioned earlier in the video? But if you're in a team and you complete a contract for a given faction, your teammates also make faction progress from you doing that contract. It's shared. And this means that playing in a squad is absolutely amazing for faction rep progress. Next, bots might be clapping your cheeks in the early runs of the game, but if you do your Arachne Liaison contract, and then you upgrade this node in the skill tree, you can start one-hitting bots with your melee. And another thing you might not be aware of is you've got a light melee attack and a heavy melee attack as well. So whenever I see a bot, I've got that upgraded node now, I just go up to it, I right-click it, and it either breaks its shield or it insta-kills the bot if it's a base-level UESC drone. So this is definitely worth investing in. Next, when you spawn in as Rook in a Rook run, you can't see where you are on the map. But a simple fix for this is just to ping on the floor in front of you and then pull the map up and look at where your ping is. And that tells you where you are. Next, really simple one, your heat meter drains significantly faster if you crouch. So it's a really good idea to not just sprint and then walk and then sprint and then walk, but sprint and then crouch walk and then sprint and then crouch walk to cover ground faster and make sure that your heat meter fully drains in between sprints. Next, you really need to try to save unstable gel, unstable lead, unstable biomass, unstable gunmetal, and unstable diodes. These are used for all of the faction upgrade trees, and you can mark them by pressing R, and that will track them in-game. So then in-game, when you see them, there'll be a little green eye on the corner of the icon, and also it will highlight on the map where they can be found. So you'll pull up the map, and over a POI, it will have a little green eye, and that shows that your tracked item can be found there. These are always worth extracting with, so if you have spare backpack space, make sure you're picking those up. Next, a warning, if you're trying to share faction rep with your teammates, make sure that they have done all of their liaison contracts. The reason for this is you will not share your MIDA rep, for example, with your teammate if your teammate hasn't unlocked the MIDA contracts in the first place, and you unlock those via liaisons. Next, a very short one, liaison contracts are some of the only things that do not reset at the end of a season, and therefore they're really worth doing very early so that you never have to worry about them ever again. Next, bartering is good, but it can also be really bad. So the barter system is a way for you to exchange materials for different items instead of just paying with credits. And this is unbelievably useful early in the game when you're pretty credits poor and you've only got some random scrap items, and you can use those to craft some extra ammo or craft some heals and things like that. However, because you want to be saving as much of your unstable matter as possible, the barter system very quickly becomes a materials sink. So instead, later, sort of at mid-game I would say, you should sort of stop using the barter system and start relying on just paying for things with credits. Next, if you see one of these little rectangular cards in your game, you must extract with this. It's a schema, and it's going to mean that you can buy those things in the armory through a different path to what you'd normally have to do, getting stuff through faction upgrades and stuff like that. And they are cracked. So for example, I found a Phoenix kit schematic. Now, in my armory, it costs only 700 credits to buy a purple Phoenix kit, which basically puts me back at full health, full shield, just like Phoenix kit and Apex or whatever they're called. Are they called Phoenix kits? Can't remember. But 700 credits is actually cheaper than buying one regular shield cell and one regular patch kit or a health kit. So I'm getting something cheaper, which takes up fewer inventory slots, which heals me and recharges me even more. It's crazy. So really do not sleep on those schemas. However, a lot of the schemas look very similar, so it's worth doing a kind of mental check and saying, okay, do I have two of the same one in my inventory right now, or is this one that I've already got? And maybe then you can share it with a friend if you already have it, and then next time your friend gets something that you don't have, you can do a little bit of your own bartering. Next, this is a really quick one, but these different options in the menu are really useful for selecting different loot before you enter your run. Just helps you filter, okay, what ammo do I need? I need this, this, and this. Oh, I need to remember that I need shield charges and health kits and self-revives and all those sorts of things. Tab through those menus before a run and use it as a mental checklist to make sure that you don't forget anything essential. Next, there is a cap on silk. There is a warning pop-up for this, so hopefully you spotted that, but I don't want you to run into the situation where you stop earning silk because you're at cap and you waste a bunch of silk. It's one of the game's currencies that you use for the battle pass, and so really, I think that you should just be spending your silk as you get it so that you never hit the cap. Next, if you find a purple rarity gun, it actually might be worse than your green gun. And the reason for this is you're going to play around with different guns as you experience the different maps of Marathon, and you're going to find some that you like and some that you don't. right? And that's just the base gun archetype. But the higher rarity versions of the guns are not just better at base and by default. Instead, they look better because of the mods that are applied to them. So what you should do is, if you find a purple gun out in the environment that you don't really like the base version of, you can just equip that gun, strip all the mods off, drop the now gray version of the gun, and then pick up your original weapon. And that way you can apply those mods to other weapons in the future, or even the weapons you're currently holding, and upgrade those, which you already know you like more. Next, I see so many people making this mistake. Prox chat and team chat are bound to different keys. I think one of them is on T and the other is on Y, if I'm not mistaken. And I see so many of you guys trying to talk in prox chat to other players, and you're just talking in crew chat to your teammates. That's not how it works. So make sure you check your keybinds, and I'd suggest that you bind prox chat to maybe like mouse 5 on your mouse or something. Like I like putting melee on mouse 4 and then prox chat on mouse 5, and that means that I can easily talk to people in my lobby at any moment without having to move my fingers off WASD. Next, Rook runs are, in my opinion, really not worth doing in your first couple of days playing the game. I know that sounds crazy, but you can't do contracts as Rook, and that holds you back a huge amount in the early game, and it really stops you from getting a ton of the loot that you'd get for free from doing those contracts. So I would really strongly advise you avoid Rook runs the first couple of days you play, and instead just mainline through all of those contracts and then go from there. Now, I'd love to hear if you knew all of these tips already, or if you've got things that you could share in the comments of this video that we could then shout you out for as tips in future videos. Definitely do that. Leave a comment now with your best tips for the game. And if you want to know what to do first, like maybe you're confused about not doing a Rook run, or you don't know what contracts to focus on, etc., I've got a video which literally walks you through all the stuff I would do first if I was playing the game for the first time now, and that's linked on screen right now for you to click through to and get all that juicy info in your head. I hope this video was useful. Subscribe if it was, click through to that video, and I'll see you there.